All right, y'all, we're talking Kentucky football on the new SEC podcast, and we're talking today about the outlook for the Kentucky team in 2025. Is this Stoops' final season, and what do we expect from the Kentucky Wildcats?
Looking at the pieces that they've changed here, I think that the team is going to be better. Do I think it will impact the final result on the season? I'm not so sure, but I think that from especially a passing game that the team is greatly improved. You bring in Zach Calzada. He has SEC experience during his time at Texas A&M. And you bring him in because the passing game last season was really abysmal. 51.9% completion percentage, 128th in college football. You're not going to win games in the SEC like that. So if you can improve on that, then I'm going to say this team's better. I think that they improved upon last year and the expectations start getting a little bit higher, hopefully not too high to where they get disappointed.
Yeah, and I think you're right. In terms of having a better quarterback, seemingly from compared to last season. This quarterback coming in has some SEC starting experience, like you said. You bring in Kendrick Law, a receiver from Alabama, one of your guys. Offense could look a little bit better this season. We don't necessarily fully know what to expect from the defense, but I think what's not playing in Kentucky's favor is they have two returning starters on offense across the board. And it's a tall tale story of the portal era and the era that we're in right now.
Yeah, they're going to be playing another rebuild situation where you're coming in with something completely different, and it's tough to know what that's going to look like. Changes at the running back position. You bring in Dante Dowdle from Nebraska, who did great there, but then again, it's another piece to your offense that changes. The defense had some hiccups last year. I think that they're going to be just as good, if not better. Just like Oklahoma, I think those hiccups last year could be attributed to the offense not keeping them off the field as often.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, it's really down. My outlook for Kentucky is really based on the offense, how the offense performs. They don't have an easy path to do it. They play two tough out-of-conference games. I saw someone online talking about 4 built-in wins, and I'm like, I don't see it.
Where
I see, they have 4 out-of-conference games: Toledo, Eastern Michigan, Tennessee Tech, and Louisville. I only see 2 of those as games that I would, they're going to win. I think that Toledo, we saw what they did to Mississippi State last year, and in Louisville, you travel on the road, and then they have a tough SEC schedule. So it's tough to look at this team and really try to pick, if you're going game by game, on how the expectations, on how the outlook will improve from last year.
Yeah, and the schedule is really similar to last season, right? They started off with South Carolina as their first SEC game, and then they played Georgia. And you look back, and that team played Georgia very close, right? Georgia kind of snuck out of Kroger Field with a win. And so I think with Kentucky, it feels like there's a little bit of mystery this season compared to other teams in the SEC. They do get a higher over/under win total compared to Mississippi State. The SEC Media Day poll had them finishing about 15th in the conference. So right above Mississippi State, and like you, I take that back. Ole Miss is their first SEC game this year, but like you, it's kind of like, where is the automatic 4 wins? I like them against Toledo. I'm a big proponent of a lot of these Group of 5 versus SEC games. I think they would take down Eastern Michigan. Ole Miss, you never know, right? It's Austin Simmons' second start to that point. He obviously looked pretty good when he came in for a series or 2. Last season. I think when I look at this schedule, I think Vanderbilt is one you kind of point to and say, okay, these teams have a similar recruiting profile, but Vanderbilt returns a lot more production. They return their leading tackler. They're returning their two leading rushers. So it's late in the season, so I think there's a little wear and tear there for Kentucky to get that 4th win. And then the 5th win, it's got to come from, either Auburn, Florida, or an upset to Texas, right? Or an upset to Georgia potentially, which we saw they almost had last season.
Yeah, don't count out the Ole Miss game. They beat an Ole Miss team last year on the road that I think is considerably better than the Ole Miss team that they'll be facing this year. So that could be a game. It's just there's a lot in the air for this Kentucky team on how they're going to look. And I think until we see what translates from Zach Calzada's game and Incarnate Word back into the SEC, it's tough to know. But I'm gonna stay positive on them. I think that, if they can win that Toledo game and come out strong, play a good game against Ole Miss, even if it's not a win, I think you're starting to set the pace. But they do have a tough road. I mean, 2 road games off of bye at South Carolina and Georgia, and then they play. They get their bye right again, and then they play a long stretch of football there. So 4.5 win total. I would be taking the under on that. It's nothing against Kentucky. It's just kind of what I think about the program in this situation where they're not looking consistent year over year and who's playing offense for them. If they can start to maintain some pieces, keep some guys around, then I think that they will continue to improve and start to become another player in the SEC.
Yeah, and I think that's one thing that Kentucky has done well is really maintain players. If you follow the Wildcats closely, you saw they signed a 4-star quarterback for the class of 2026. You lose Dane Key, you lose Barry and Brown. Those guys were loyal. They stayed for a couple of years. A lot was expected of them the last couple seasons. And so with the shuffling of the roster and the players they brought in, on paper, it's hard to find five wins or more. So I'm going to go the under here. Is it Stoops' final season? I think it really just depends on how the games look. It's hard to let go your all-time winningest coach. I think with some of the things happening with potentially with the portal and with NIL and potentially rev share and cap, that could balance out these rosters and retention, and that can play well to what Stoops has been able to do in the past. Doesn't excuse him from having a bad season, but I think that it really just depends how it looks. Given his if it was Sam Pittman that has a bad season, I think he's gone. If it's Billy Napier that has a 4-win season, I think he's gone. But I still feel like Stoops has a little bit of leeway given his overall tenure at Kentucky.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I could see that. I could see them sticking with him just to see how everything shakes out, if there are going to be long-term changes, instead of making a change along with the changes, keeping some sort of continuity. If they come out strong, I think the Ole Miss game is going to be a huge indicator on what the season will look like.
Definitely. And we didn't really talk about it too much, but, Louisville, they don't have Tyler Slaw this year at quarterback, so that could be another potential win at the end of the season as well for them. Yeah. Well, this is the new SEC podcast. If you like talking about SEC football, you got some thoughts around what the Kentucky season looks like, or if there's topics you want us to talk about Kentucky football, follow, subscribe, comment, let us know what you want to hear, and tune in until next time.